Do you suffer from anxiety and you have tried already a lot of different things, but nothing has made a lasting difference? Then this video is for you, because in this video, I will share with you that anxiety has a specific energetic pattern. And once you understand this pattern, you can heal from the root up. I'm also going to share with you the different root causes for anxiety that you might have overlooked so far. And also, of course, giving you tips and tricks on how to heal each root cause. So, in case you don't know me, my name is Dr. Kaarina Johnson. I'm a medical doctor turned energy healer, and I've been doing energy healings for almost 20 years now. And so anxiety is something that a lot of my clients struggle with. It's very prevalent in the Western world, and so it might be something that you struggle with as well. And when I do my readings, I always take a look first into the energy system. So energy system is the subtle energy body. And I'm going to talk here about the chakra system. That's what I start with, because the chakras are linked to your organs, and there's also a very specific energetic pattern that I can see when you suffer from anxiety. And I want to share this with you right now. And then, as I said, later I will give you also the tips on how you can start healing. So when I take a look into someone who comes to me and I pick up anxiety, the first thing that I always look at is the root chakra. And that's the chakra at the very end of your spine that connects you deep into the earth. And when you have anxiety, this chakra is almost like offline. It's closed and you're not grounded into the earth. The root chakra is the chakra that contains the survival fears. So fear of abandonment, for example. So really fears that get to your core, that are very, very deep. And so this chakra is very often not online. Also, what I see often in spiritual communities is that they actually don't want to even open this chakra and ground, because they feel like once they do this, they cannot ascend spiritually. But this is really not the case. It's actually the opposite. Because when the root chakra is closed, all the energy starts flowing upwards. And that's really what happens in an anxiety pattern. And so it's not just bad for your spiritual development. If you don't want to be on this planet and you feel like it's too overwhelming, so then you don't have mastered the lower chakras. And so with anxiety, when this chakra is closed, now the energy starts flowing upwards. And the next chakra that usually is affected is then the solar plexus chakra, which is where your stomach is. And the solar plexus chakra also holds a lot of fears, but these fears are mostly related to how you view yourself or also the world. So it could be something like beliefs can also be in there, but fear of making a mistake, fear of not being good enough, fear that you won't live up to others' expectations. So that can also cause, of course, these beliefs can cause anxiety, but the pattern is that this chakra is then usually very, very tight. And every chakra is connected to specific organs. And here, usually, the liver is then taxed. So you might not be able to detoxify really well if you have anxiety, because then the liver is affected. So, and that energy then also flows upward into the heart. And this is also a very important chakra when it comes to anxiety, is then the heart chakra is overworked, so to speak. There's too much energy in the heart chakra. And so you might get heart palpitations. And of course, you know this, right? When you have anxiety, the heart starts beating really fast. And so all these three chakras are very, very important when it comes to anxiety. And here with the heart, the opposite, the antidote would be, of course, to open your heart. But because you cannot have an open heart and feel loving and have anxiety at the same time, right? Also, what we always take a look at is your aura. That's the energy around your body. And in a healthy pattern, it's actually very strong, and it's like a skin and a shell, right? But of course, fluid, that's a healthy one. But when you suffer from anxiety, this is also very, very thin. And so often what happens is that you then are overwhelmed easily by others people's emotions and feelings because the boundary is not there. So you're lacking that energetic protection and the boundary. And often when someone comes to me and says, oh, they're dealing with anxiety, they're just picking up other people's feelings and emotions. So that's something that's also important to understand. And then also, where does really the anxiety come from? Have you asked yourself, do you know where your anxiety comes from? And I want to share now with you what the root causes are, the most important root causes for you also to consider, because maybe it didn't even start with you. And what do I mean by this, that maybe it didn't start with you? Sometimes anxiety can be something that's really generational, where something happened to one of your ancestors. And here in Europe, we have, of course, a lot of trauma still from the war, the previous generations who went through war, and they had, of course, tremendous amount of fear in the system. And we notice from research that what happens is when one of our ancestors went through a trauma, it does affect the next generation and then the next one. And that is because the energetic readout, the readout of your genes gets changed. Not the gene itself, because only about 1% of all illnesses are really directly related to specific genes. But I'm talking here about the epigenetic readout. So that's the readout of the genes. So if a cancer-causing gene gets switched on or off, and that can be related really to trauma from one of your ancestors. And I actually made a video on how to heal your ancestral lineage, and I will link it below. But just keep this in mind. So you could also do some research and ask your parents or maybe grandparents, what did they go through? And then, of course, one of the main root causes is childhood trauma, right? If you went through something very hard in your childhood, then of course that will make a lasting impression on you. That's something that you've learned, and now you see the world through the filter. Maybe your parent was an alcoholic. You learned that it's not safe in this world, and your nervous system is basically wired then to look for danger, and it's always on high alert. The same is true for the time in the womb. It's also very, very important. Most people haven't really thought about this, but let's say the time in the womb when your mom was pregnant with you and she had a very stressful time, her stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, were high. And so they were then also high in your developing nervous system. That basically means that your nervous system is entrained to a very high state of anxiety. That's what you know, right? It's normal for you. And so in adult life, it's then really hard to switch it off. But again, I will show you techniques and tips on how to do this. Then, of course, the time at birth is also very important to consider, right? It can be also traumatic. And then lastly, and this is something a lot of people are also not aware of, physical and environmental stresses can also be at the culprit of anxiety. So what do I mean here? Toxins that can run in the body can cause anxiety because it aggravates the nervous system. Then also electromagnetic field pollution, which is basically microwave pollution from cell phones, laptops, smart meters, Wi-Fi, so forth. In some people, it causes anxiety because it's unnatural. So keep this in mind, and you want to just make sure that you're not exposed as much, and especially when you sleep, because that's when your nervous system should wire down. And sometimes that's just a reason for the anxiety. And then also nutritional imbalances. I'm going to share with you which supplements to take in a little bit. But there's one more reason for why you might have anxiety, and that's at the soul level, right? When we look at the soul, and you can pause and ask yourself and close your eyes and just connect to yourself and say, okay, what is it that my soul actually wants to tell me? Because you're not just a body, right? And you're not just a mind or emotion, it's all one system. But the governing principle, of course, is your soul. And the soul always has the last word. And so it could be a message from your soul that maybe the way you live is out of alignment. Maybe there's something that you need to change, but you haven't done so because you're afraid. But at the deepest level, anxiety is really a lack of trust. And what if your soul wants to guide you back to this natural state, the natural state of wholeness, the natural state of where you know you are taken care of, where you can learn to trust the universe, God, or whatever name you, source, whatever name you want to give it. And so doing some inquiry and meditation, or maybe writing, automatic writing, some people like this too, is also very important to always ask yourself, what does my soul want to tell me? So let's talk about strategies and solutions. What can you do? So think back about the energetic pattern that I've shared with you. So the most important thing is, because the root chakra, right? This one is out, is grounding. Grounding. What is grounding actually? On the very physical side of things, grounding literally means that you take your shoes off and you step onto the earth, fresh grass, and feel the earth. That's very important, because this alone can really help with anxiety, because you also get the negative ions from the earth into your body. It releases inflammation, and that alone is just helps balance the energetic system and then also the nervous system. If you think about it, we are now all wearing shoes with plastic soles, and that's always it's a disconnection from the earth, right? Because these negative ions cannot travel up. So literally just taking off your shoes is really important. Then grounding meditations and visualizations are great, because energy follows attention. And when you put your awareness on your feet and your legs, on your root chakra, and imagine a grounding cord deep into the earth, and you allow that cord to come back up and flow back into your body, and you do this for a while, you will notice that your anxiety will start to shift. It has to, because you are basically doing something to heal your energetic system. You're opening up. And if you want to know how to do this, I know this is just a brief explanation, but I created a grounding meditation for you, and I'm going to link this video also in the description. Now, the heart chakra, of course, is very important as well. Opening the heart chakra through cultivating the emotions of love, care, and gratitude is very, very important. You cannot feel anxiety and love at the same time. It's just not possible. So cultivating those emotions is very, very important, as it is to connect not just to your soul, but also to visualize a protective field around you. Like you could do like a waterfall, like a blue light around you, to strengthen your energetic boundaries. Right? So energy always flows where attention goes. So strengthening the aura is also very, very helpful if you do this over time. The next thing that you want to do is you want to activate the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and here specifically the vagus nerve. So in case you don't know this, just a quick refresher. The autonomous nervous system is the part of your nervous system that you cannot control, but it has two branches, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight and flight mode. The parasympathetic nervous system is the vagus nerve, is rest, digest, and heal. So you want to have this turned on. Now, what most people don't know, you cannot be in sympathetic nervous system and in parasympathetic nervous system at the same time. That's not possible. It's an either or switch. So activating the vagus nerve is very important. So how do you do this? Well, you could do this just simply by breathing slowly. That's right, just breathing very slowly. And in particular, breathing in for about 5 to 6 seconds, so very slowly. And then breathing out for approximately the same amount of time, 5 to 6 seconds. And of course, you do this not just once, but for a few minutes. This gives a signal to the brain that you are safe, because you would only breathe like this if you were safe. So you can literally trick your mind to think, oh, I'm safe here. And then it will relax. Your nervous system will relax. The next thing that you can do to activate the vagus nerve is cold water exposure. I know it sounds terrible, but it works really, really well. So doing like a very cold shower or splashing ice cold water in your face is great. I'm here in Austria, and we have a lot of hot springs, and we like to go to the sauna here. And then, of course, what you have to do is, because you're sweating so much and your nervous system gets actually right up first in sympathetic, you have to cool off. You have to then turn on the vagus nerve, and you do this by taking a cold plunge, where you are in the cold plunge for a few minutes, not long, but 1 to 2 minutes. It really helps, because then it feels like, wow, you have gotten a massage for 2 hours, because the vagus nerve is turned on. That is it's really helpful. So now let's talk about nutritional support. So I'm trained as a medical doctor, but I have also a degree in nutritional medicine, which is orthomolecular medicine. And so I know a little bit about supplements, which ones to take. And of course, this is just a general help here, or suggestions. It's not specifically tailored to your needs, but if you have anxiety, you cannot go wrong with these supplements. So the first one is definitely magnesium. Most people are very deficient in magnesium, and all magnesium is not created equally, which means that if you look at the bottle of a magnesium supplement, you will notice that it says, for example, magnesium oxide or magnesium citrate. So there are different salts attached to the magnesium, and depending on which one this is, you will absorb the magnesium very well or not at all. Like magnesium oxide is really used more for constipation, because it's a laxative. It does not do anything to increase magnesium levels in the body. I really like one magnesium that's called Remag. It's a liquid magnesium. It's formulated by a physician, and it has very high absorption rate. That's what I just personally take and also suggest to my clients. I've linked all the supplements also below in the description. Of course, B vitamins, very, very important. Most of us are very depleted in B vitamins. Ashwagandha, that's actually an herb. It's an herb, I believe it comes from India, and it's an adaptogen, which means that if you have very high cortisol levels, stress hormone levels, it will help to bring them down. So it works on the adrenal glands. Let's say you have already adrenal burnout, which can happen when you have a lot of anxiety for a lot of years. Then it will help to increase cortisol levels, which is actually a good thing in that state, because if you're depleted, it's very hard to get up. So again, it's an adaptogen. It's an intelligent herb. You cannot go wrong with it. Then what I like for anxiety a lot is GABA, GABA. This is an amino acid, and it's natural to the body. It's a calming amino acid for the brain. So when you take this, it's best taken on an empty stomach. And just know that everyone's different in terms of how much you will need, but you can start with around 500 milligrams, going up all the way to 1500 milligrams. And as I said, it's best taken on an empty stomach, or maybe 2 hours after you have eaten. Otherwise, the absorption rate is not as good. Or let's say you cannot sleep, right? You have difficulty falling asleep because your mind is racing. Then GABA is really, really good for that. Just keep in mind that on the higher dosages, like starting around 1500, you might get a little side effect, which is a flush type feeling. But don't worry, it just means that the smallest capillaries open up and you just have more blood flow going through the body. It can feel a little bit like tingling or hot. It subsides. So don't worry about it if you feel it. Then omega-3 fatty acids is also super important because they're part of the cell membrane. They make everything just more fluid within the body, meaning that the signals of your nerves can transmit very well. And the omega-3 fatty acids also reduce inflammation. We have not enough of them because our food is high in omega-6, which creates a lot of inflammation. So taking omega-3 fatty acids will also help. And of course, a good diet, organic diet, where you're not eating a lot of sugar, because sugar can really cause anxiety. Now, when we go back to the mind and we say, okay, the causes for anxiety is that I might visualize basically in my mind's eye a bad future, because that's what anxiety really is. It is fear of the future. And the mind usually creates worst case scenarios. So here's a tip that helps really well with if you suffer from anxiety, that you sit down and literally write down what's the worst case scenario that you're playing in your mind. Or if you don't know, you just write down your worst case scenario. And then you just let it out. You don't need to show it to anyone. But okay, so that's what the mind does. It wants to protect you. It wants to keep you safe. But that's just how the mind does it. And it's not very helpful, right? And so the thing is this, because when you have a thought, the body follows, because it's one system. So if you have a so-called negative thought, like worst case scenario in your mind of the future, your body literally will think that this is what's happening right now and will start to pump out stress hormones, which then cause the feeling of anxiety. So what you need to do is, once you know what your worst case scenario is, you want to then visualize a good scenario for yourself. Let's make this practical here. So let's say you are having difficult financial problems and you are afraid of losing your house. Then what do? You write it down. That's the worst case scenario, what could happen. And then every morning, it's usually really good to do this morning and evening. It doesn't have to be long, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. You visualize yourself in your house. You visualize the money coming in, maybe having a new job. You visualize the money coming in from places you don't even know. And when you prime your mind like this, you're telling it, this is where you need to go. This is where I'm going. This is the direction. The mind will find ways to actually get you there. So you will notice that new opportunities come your way. And most importantly, you will feel much better. Then, of course, the energetic tools like EFT, tapping, the visualizations, the chakra healing, aura clearing, the grounding meditations, all this works really, really well. So as a summary, I want to let you know that you have the power to do so much for the anxiety, and it's just an energetic state. Of course, nutritional deficiency, you can address those, but most of it's an energetic state, because everything's energy and vibration. You are energy and vibration, and you can change this energy. So I would love to hear from you. Apply these tips. Let me know how they worked for you. And then also, if you feel like you need more help, I also currently have spots available for private healing sessions. So again, I've linked everything in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and like it. That would really help. Thank you so much. Until next time, much love and bye-bye.